Do you know Mount Sinai?
Vaguely.
Okay,
What's
well,
that?
it's a mountain that exists, and you could look this up. And it is also mentioned in the Bible. And in real life, if you were to go to the mountain, you could see that at the top of the mountain it is burnt. Just the rocks at the very top are burnt. I have a picture of it up here. And in Exodus in 19:18, it states that God burnt the mountain. So if you don't and if you and we know the mountain's burnt in reality. So if you're an atheist, you have to come up with an explanation of why this mountain is burnt. Um, two
Well,
explanations that have been. Did you want to say something?
go ahead.
Two explanations that atheists have came up with that have been refuted is one, the mountain or like the mountain's a volcano. Um, Archaeologists have tested the mountain and they've discovered that it's not a volcano. And I looked this up to double check. It's on the screen if you want to see. And um, that's just one actually.
Have you considered an asteroid impact?
Wouldn't that destroy the whole mountain?
Yeah.
There's like rocks.
Could
Yeah,
you?
but it's not destroyed.
What's not destroyed?
The mountain, like the very top of the mountain, is burnt black.
Yeah, that could be due to an asteroid impact, right? I don't see why that couldn't be.
Well, I mean, no, an asteroid impact would just like destroy like the whole like mountain with the size of
No,
the
asteroid
size of the
impacts
mountain.
have happened before, like in Russia in the 1900s, and it destroyed a forest, but the ground was still there. It just was burnt away. Um, yeah.
Hold on. All right, do you see this picture I have up here? You could put me full screen to see it better.
Yeah, I can see it.
So this part, the black part of the mountain, that's the part I'm referring to. You're saying that could have been from an asteroid? You could put it full
Yeah,
screen if
do
you
you
want.
know that asteroids don't necessarily impact directly the surface? They actually explode in the atmosphere, and they can cause burning on the ground and like extreme vaporization of the ground.
Okay.
But volcanic activity also could be the case that there could have also been a volcanic activity happening there as well in its past, and I don't see how that's been debunked.
Um. Well, I mean, the volcanic activity. Well, I mean, there's no like actual volcanoes around it. And it itself is not a volcano.
Well, you know the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, and volcanoes could have existed near it at one point due to the continental drift. Right, there could have been rift valleys. There could have been plates that have collided together or diverged, causing volcanic activity temporarily, even though it's not a real volcano. Right, so there are geological explanations for such a thing that we wouldn't just go, okay, God did it because we don't understand it.
Uh,
That seems to be
well,
more of a God of the gaps.
well, okay. I mean, it's not totally a God of the gaps because the Bible does mention that God did it, so it's not like that we're just coming up with it. The Bible actually explicitly says God did it, but I mean,
Right,
I
but
guess.
but who made the Bible? It's just some person, some people. We don't know who did it, and there's nothing about the Bible that's authoritative in any significant sense. It's just a story, to be frank.
Okay. Well, that's what I had to bring up.
Okay,
I guess I should probably head down now. All right.
thank
Bye.
you. Look, just keep learning, man, about science, and you won't make these silly connections when you learn more about the world. Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
nothing.
So, I think God is real because I just feel like like there's some things out there that you just can't explain.
Okay, so we can't explain something, therefore God? Is that your line of reasoning?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because like, for
But
example, like why why is the why is the universe like here, man?
that's a great question. Why are we here? Why do we exist? What's the reason behind? What's our purpose? Right? These are great questions, and doesn't we don't have a very accessible answer to these questions. They're very obscure. But the problem is that as much as you want to, every ounce of your heart wants to say that there's some reason behind our existence. There's got to be something that's that's controlling us, that's behind us. Um, as much as you want to be central to the universe, we have to remember a different perspective and the different perspectives that we have access to today. Biblically speaking, yeah, it seems like we're the reason why the universe is here, but from a cosmic perspective, if you take a look at the pale blue dot, for example, a picture from a billion miles away, the Earth is just a little dot, and our sun is another little dot in a sea of dots. It seems more and more unlikely that humans play a central role in the universe, and that we just are here by chance. And as much as you don't want to accept it, it might be the case. And it doesn't make sense to just quickly suggest God did it. We don't know. We don't have answers right now. But let's figure them out. Let's
Well,
find
like,
out the answer.
how did life begin on Earth?
That's another great question. How did life get here? And this is something we have a little bit more answers to. We have geological evidence of formations that were generated by bacteria in the early Earth about 4 billion years ago. These are bacteria that molded rocks, and we also have fossils of animals going back billions of years. We also have chemical evidence that life can emerge from chemical processes like you know DNA, RNA polymerization, and we've made amino acids from basic gases in the early Earth, like hydrogen and methane and ammonia. We can make amino acids. The building blocks of life can be made from simple stuff. And so we do have quite a bit of answers on the on how life began. It's not anymore. It's not a big debate anymore as to how life began. I mean, we have a good idea
Okay, well,
how
what
life
about
began
human
without.
consciousness?
I'm sorry.
What about human consciousness?
Another great question. How did we become conscious? This has to do with brain evolution. Uh, old our ancestors lived in the oceans, and they had to figure out where the food was, where the predators were, and beings that had more awareness of their surroundings, little photoreceptor cells in their bodies that could realize that there's signals of light in their environment. And now they can see directionally. That helped us become more aware, and that became more and more complex. And over time, we developed brains that controlled those sensory systems. And then we developed language and all these things that helped us survive. So consciousness is evolution is indexed to our survival throughout our evolutionary history.
That's crazy.
It is amazing. It's quite incredible to learn these things. it's flabbergasting. It's astonishing to learn the science behind our existence, and we know quite a bit about it. And resorting to God, not only is it just naive, but it's also just it just sucks away the beauty of the world when you just say, "Yeah, God did it." But there's a lot more complexity to it that human nature
Yeah,
really
yeah, I
understands.
agree with you. I agree with you. So, like, it's like all of this, like, complexity and stuff. Like, is it like, is it like describable with all within like a scientific framework?
Science is one of the best frameworks we have to determining what is true in our world. Science is one of the best because it can poke the universe and see what's really happening to it when we poke it. It's not just suggesting things in a book and telling you, yeah, believe me, trust me, bro. It's really going out there and testing the world and reporting back. And people do cross analyses. They do peer review. They try to point out flaws in each other's works. They don't just accept them and say and make excuses as to why they exist. They really try to figure out the truth, and that's the beauty of science.
Hmm. Okay. So, like, should I become an atheist now?
No, what you should be doing is asking more questions and learning more.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
like,
do that. Learn more. It's amazing to learn about the world. Open up your mind and learn about the world around you and gain new perspectives. I don't want you to become an atheist. I could care less what you believe. What I care about is, are you thinking clearly and effectively? Are you thinking in a way that would yield good answers, reliable and accurate answers about where and how we exist?
okay, okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's
Think.
cool, man.
Yeah, man. Stay curious and keep learning. It's all I ask.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, how are you?
Fine. So, as far as I'm concerned, God definitely exists.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm curious actually how you're so convinced that there's no God. It might not be the God I typically think of, but I I generally think that there's definitely a God.
The who?
L- let me explain what I mean by that. It might not be like what you think of God, like you probably heard about the saying that we probably in a what do you call it, um a digital world, a kind of
Simulation.
yeah, simulation, exactly, yeah. So um yeah, I think if that was true, then whoever controls that simulation is actually God for whatever living inside that simulation.
Okay, but who controls the simulator? Who's controlling their existence? Are they in a
That's
simulation?
irrelevant. That's
Are they
irrelevant.
in a simulation? It's an infinite regression of simulations that needs an
That's
explanation.
that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant for the people living in that simulation, because
Well,
for them
I
that is
agree.
God.
I agree that that's irrelevant to us. But if you're going to suggest that there's a God and you're asking the question, what is the fundamental reality that we exist within? Well, that's a very important question. Is there an infinite regression of simulations? Is there a base reality? Is it even possible for there to be a simulation that infinitely regresses? I mean, what kind of computer system is required? I mean, the power required to sustain these infinite simulations would be immense. It would be itself infinite and could not be sustained in a
Sure,
universe.
but you are thinking in our terms. You're thinking that thing needs power. It needs a certain amount of power. Only these things only apply in our universe. In other universe, it might be different. It's not
Well, then you
bound
have
to our universe.
reduced the idea of power to something that I don't understand, and neither can you understand. I mean, what is power without the ability to do something? I mean, what is that? What do you
I'm
what do you
not
mean by
saying
power now?
I'm not saying that it would not exist. I'm saying you might not need as much of it to run this simulation.
But if
That
there's an infinite amount of simulations, you need an infinite amount of power. And how is that
maybe not.
possible in a
Maybe not.
universe to achieve infinite power?
Maybe not, because
Okay,
this is
these are that's the point. These are some of the questions I have.
yeah, but let's think about why there's any meaning for all of this. You clearly think there's meaning in life. I saw you speak about animals and some
Mhm.
other topics. Like so, you clearly think there's meaning in this existence.
I
So
absolutely do think there's meaning.
I'm curious, where do you derive this meaning from? Why do you think anything matters?
I derive it from people, nature, animals, existing, breathing, loving, my family, my friends, these interactions. These give me meaning. All I mean by meaning is I enjoy it. I cherish its existence. I'm happy that it exists. And I don't need a God to be happy. I don't need anything else to have meaning in my life because I really enjoy it. And
See,
so I
this is
don't
what
need anything more than just a recognition of the greatness around me for meaning. I don't need anything more.
I disagree, because you need God to have meaning for your life. Because if you are just this life, this brief moment in the universe where you just existed and experienced things, and then you vanished, and you have no, as an atheist, you believe that you just randomly been there and you just don't exist anymore, and God is just a lie.
Let me
So
ask you a question. Do you enjoy to watch a movie?
yeah, sure.
But it's finite. It only lasts a short amount of time. Does that mean that movies don't matter anymore because you can't enjoy them because they're finite?
Yeah, but come on, this analogy is so wrong. It cannot be applied for the universe or your
Well,
life.
sure it can,
It's
because even though we exist in a finite time, we can enjoy it for the moment. And
sure
that's
you
all
can
that
enjoy it,
matters.
but
When we
this is
after we die, we won't be here to care about it anymore. Now, if you're asking me, is there meaning after we die? Why does that matter? Why is that required? And if you're going to say God does that, what's God's meaning? What's God's purpose for existing?
yeah. So let me say something about, you said you could enjoy life. Like I also have a problem with that, because why? Even enjoyment is something evolutionary. We enjoy things that are beneficial for us. So why should it? It's clearly not like what the universe intend, or the highest purpose to achieve in the universe. Like it is in our perspective, because it's biological. But as when we talk about meaning, or what does it mean, or if there's a God, I don't think it's that enjoyment or having fun or whatever is relevant. Because even for a scientist, like these are subjective things, are not objective things.
But why do we need objective purpose? What is our objective purpose in your mind?
um for me, this is relevant because, look, many people, typically atheists, like they use science to like debunk religion, or like prove religion wrong, but they are perfectly uh, um, fine with using like subjective arguments when they try and like convince you why they are noble or whatever. Like you can't have it both
The-
ways. Either
no,
up,
they're not. We're not assuming that there's an objective reason, right? We don't need one. That's the point that they're trying to make, and so am I. We don't need an objective purpose or an objective morality. We don't need any of that. And I think a lot of theists have a hard time. They struggle with that notion that meaning can be subjective, that morality can be subjective. So again, you continue to invoke these kinds of things, that you need objectivity, you need an objective purpose. But why? What's the reason?
I'm saying you as an atheist, you use like you try and convince me that religion is bullshit. It's just a bunch of stories, and reality is science, right? But then you are in a way saying all that it matters, all that is real is objective things. So when you then come to me and make some moral arguments, I just think, look, didn't you just say to me that actually morals are just like you just said to me that only objective things matter. So you now like
Well, look,
I can't
I,
have
I
I can't
agree with
have
you. A lot of atheists don't know how to properly defend this kind of. They don't know how to defend it properly. I agree with you there. But when we talk about objective facts, we're talking about things that are true with regardless of your stance or opinion about them. Now, morality is when we invoke morality, that's a different thing, because now that's philosophical. Because moral facts are not considered truth apt to many people, right? For example, I'm a moral anti-realist in the sense that I don't really think that there are facts about morality like we have facts about things in science, right? They're two different types of truths,
yeah,
and,
exactly.
that's why you can get confused in all this, because you're trying to equivocate, you're trying to make them all the same, but there are different types and degrees of truth out there. But more importantly, um, I don't think that you haven't shown that morality has to be objective. You still haven't shown that.
I'm saying if there's a God, if there's a God, yeah. So there is a purpose. So whoever did this, whether if it's a simulation or
But
something
why?
else,
What's the reason behind that belief that you're just saying things? I want reasons.
yeah. But this is that would be an objective, like reason to exist, more like a
I
meaning.
understand. Well, actually, not necessarily, because God is a subject, so anything it states is going to be its subjective stance. But again, you're not showing me why objectivity is required. You're just saying that you believe in it.
No, I'm saying, of course. What do you mean by it's required? Required for what?
You're not showing me why objective morality is required logically.
It is required because
Why? Why
the
is it required? Why do we need it?
because otherwise everything is the same. Like killing an animal is like, I don't know, uh, uh, just letting live. Like everything is equal. It's
No, I don't see how that even makes sense. Everything's equal? What do you mean?
well, then morals are just an illusion if there is no base for them in objectivity or reality.
They're not an
Like
illusion, they're just preferences, right? They're just preferences, right? When we say it's bad to hit somebody with a baseball bat, all we really mean to say there is, well, I just don't feel like it's good. I think it's bad to do that.
yeah, but
We're
you are
not.
thinking,
It's just a
you're
preference. It's
reflecting
not
on
really like an
yourself when you say
objective
that.
fact.
You're
What?
reflecting on yourself. It's a human thing, you know. Look, I would like to know. I think consciousness could just be an illusion, also. Like
I don't know
we
what you mean by illusion, right? Nothing's an illusion in the sense that
look.
it's all
I
fake.
will tell you.
There's something real about these things. I think what you mean to say is what is the ultimate ontology of our existence? That we don't know. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all an illusion, because an illusion implies that there's an intent to deceive. But that's not what's happening necessarily. It could be the case
An illusion,
that
like
there's a reality.
yes. What I mean by that is we fooling ourselves into thinking we are like more than an algorithm, essentially. You know,
I don't
like
see
if
why that would be an illusion, right? We're not trying to convince ourselves of anything. Consciousness seems to be just that, a biological algorithm, a biochemical algorithm, and there's nothing more required. I think you're trying to romanticize consciousness and to make it into something that it's not. Oh, it's something special. It's something magical, Mike. It's
no,
something
no, no.
spiritual.
Co-
Okay, well,
com-
okay. Well, then it's not. If it's not spiritual, then why does it have to be? Why is it that if we just suggest it's just chemicals moving around, that it's somehow bad?
it's not bad. When did I say it's bad?
Okay, so then
All I'm
what's the
saying,
problem with consciousness being physical?
no. What I'm saying is, consciousness could just be an illusion because, like I said, we are just like you were saying. It's a biological algorithm. It's 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 a bunch of atoms. Like
Okay, so what is your point?
my point is how in all of this, why would anything matter? Why is morality a thing? Like you keep defending
It
topics like
matters
animals and stuff, and
because
then
we
and then you
want it
say
to
God.
matter. Look, if if we thought nothing mattered, then we wouldn't be here. But clearly there's something about our brains that desire more. Why do I wake up every morning? Because I want more. I desire more life,
No,
more
because you're
happiness,
forced
more
to.
whatever I want, right? It's about enjoying life and trying to desire, and your desires motivate you to continue. There are many complexities to this, right? There's serotonin, there's all kinds of cognitive faculties in our brains that tell us and motivate us to continue. But that's all that it is. And trying
But okay,
to dismiss all this and say, "Oh no, you just think it's chemicals. There's no meaning there," when that's precisely the fact. Because it's just chemicals, that means there's meaning there. That's what meaning means. It's just stuff happening, and out of that we get everything we
but
do.
why don't you think that from like an outside perspective? Like you are still thinking that like a human. Like I wake up, I do this and do that. I like to live. It's fun to be alive. Like all of this is like it's in your head only. It's not. It has
Okay,
no.
and so what? So what?
It's not objective meaning.
So what?
So why, for an atheist, how could an atheist still have morals and make
Because
moral
morals
judgments?
don't have to be objective to have morals. They could be subjective.
No, it can't.
Why not?
Sure, you can appeal to other people by making or saying this but for a scientist, he wouldn't be convinced. He would say like, sure, that might convince most people, but
Look, look,
it's not scientific.
look. You're making an appeal to emotion here. I think what you're trying to say is the atheist if it's just the sense that it's all ourselves and morality subjective, then there's nothing that matters. Whereas under my view, because there's God, that means everything matters because it's objective. But that's not true. Just because a God exists doesn't mean that you suddenly have objectivity. God's a
Of course you
subject.
have objectivity because he
Oh,
he whatever he's running or experimenting with us has a purpose. We
which
might not.
is which is and who gave it purpose? God.
There there could be no purpose for us, but
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do
clearly
we have objective purpose from God?
this is a great question. Like you're saying, I can't make this claim, but all I'm saying is uh, the other what atheist says is contradicting itself, and this is
Where's the
why I don't buy
contradiction?
it.
What's the contradiction?
Like I explained, it's they make moral judgment and they try and convince us that religion is bad and it's evil and whatever, but
Well, look,
they
because what
can.
we're doing, look, because what we do when we say that is, look, do you think that, stoning somebody for being gay is okay?
I personally don't, but
Okay, great. So
but
then,
you
well,
know,
then that's the problem, right? Because religion says, some
but
religions think that's okay, and that's what we're doing an internal critique there, right? We're not
sure, but
we're not suggesting, we're not making the claim that morality is objective because I'm an atheist and mine must be better. What we're saying is, if you think that it's wrong to steal or murder or all these things, which the Bible does and says is okay, well, that seems to be a critique that we can make internally. We're not suggesting that we are better objectively.
yeah, but let's just you all of this are things that, like, you are trying to appeal to the human intellect. All of this arguments,
What else can I appeal to?
like, I think you have to think, if you're looking for actual meaning, actual God existing, or being there, or evidence for him. You keep saying that we need evidence, or whatever more, whoever try and do a thought experiment to convince you that there is God, you try and debunk his claim by saying something that's objective. You're saying, yeah, well, that might be an asteroid, or that might be whatever.
It looks like I'm just dismissing them, but I'm trying to invoke thinking here. It's not
But
one-sided.
it's
Look,
not leading to anything, and
it
it's
leads to
like,
critical thinking. You're just saying things, and look, talking about these issues is important. It invokes it inspires critical thinking. Period. And just because you
okay,
think it's one-sided here, that I'm just saying, no, no, you're wrong. That's not necessarily what's happening. I'm simply trying to make critiques to people who are claiming some things.
sure, I think that's a great thing.
Okay, great.
Everyone
So
should.
so then what's your problem here before I kick you?
My problem is, I just said it. Let me just make an example, so it's clear what I think. It's probably the reality that we're living in. I think there is a God somewhere. Yeah. Mm, of course, outside this universe. Yes. So whoever, let's make the example of me. Let's say I make like a supercomputer. I make a world inside it, and there is all sorts of things. I control what happens there. Yeah, I'm like the god for this micro universe right there. So I have a purpose. I did this for intended purpose. Like, I don't know, make these people give all of them the illusion of consciousness, and let's see what they do. So they start fighting, they start debating, they start doing whatever, and I am just watching this, But
Oh, okay, congratulations. What's your
sure, but
problem now? What's your problem with that?
my problem is, you try and convince people that God doesn't exist because there is no physical evidence to it. Where if we are in a simulation or whatever this universe is, you wouldn't be able to find anything because he's outside this like containment, right?
Well, I agree that there could be something beyond our understanding. Absolutely. I'm not just simply trying to convince you that God isn't real. No, I'm open to the evidence if there is evidence, but what I'm saying is we don't have any evidence of God, and we can make some logical critiques about the definition of the God thing. So there are valid
Well,
reasons to have these debates because it gets us thinking and gets us to new ideas and new perspectives, right?
I think the only way to come to a realization about God is by thinking. It's a thought experiment. You cannot get there with physical evidence.
Okay, then everything we're doing today is good under your view. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I never said it.
Okay, but you did say you did try to say it was not worth it.
How's it going, bro?
Good. How are you?
Man, blessed, man. So I just have a quick question. You said God is imaginary. That's your topic. So my question is, what is the cost to everything?
The cost?
The cause. Like, what would be the cause to everything? So everything has a beginning. Everything has something to cause it to be in existence. What would your cause to everything be?
Well, again, when you say everything, you're suggesting that there's a totality to all things, and that itself would not have a cause by definition. So it would be
Okay.
infinitely the case.
Okay.
It's always there, and there is no cause to it. But if you're talking about our local space time, if you're
That's
talking
not
about
that's not intellectually honest though. So my thing is, if everything has so human has a beginning, right? Human existence has a beginning. You can go back in science. I'm religious, but you can go back in science, and science can tell you that there is a origin for basically everything. That's what scientists is, or science is trying to find an origin for a being, right? So if you're being honest with yourself, there has to be a cause to everything, right? So what is that cause to you?
okay, so you think there's a cause to everything, right?
Yeah,
What caused God?
God said, "I am that I am." So he was there before. He was before.
Oh, okay. So God doesn't need a cause, but
Even
the
that.
universe does. See, now you're being dishonest, right?
No, I'm not.
Because first of all, you were special pleading, but also you suggested something there that that science shows that there's an origin to everything. It doesn't. Science doesn't actually show there's an origin to everything.
Yeah.
What it tries to do is get approximate truths about our timeline of existence. And we don't know if there's a beginning. There might not be a beginning. There might not be a cause to the universe.
Okay. So let's take a step back. What would you said that would morality would be subjective to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if morality was subjective, I believe that I believe that morality is objective because God is unchanging in my belief, right? And what would be your why would you believe that morality is subjective? I guess is my question.
Because it seems to me more likely the case that when we say something's bad, we're just saying we don't like it. It doesn't seem like there's an objective truth to, why punching somebody else is bad. It just seems to be that we don't like it as people.
I understand.
Yeah.
So if I believe that Schmurder is wrong, and then I pass away, would Schmurder still be wrong?
It'd be wrong to me, yes. It's always wrong to me to murder. Yeah.
100%. So would that not be would that not be an objective instead of subjective? Because it'd be wrong to majority of 99.9% of the population.
No, so this is a very it's objectivity doesn't mean that it's majority rules, right? Objectivity in moral philosophy means stance independency. Like, in other words, regardless of your stance about something, some statement, it is going to be true or false. And that's not what you're suggesting. You're suggesting something different.
Yeah.
But again, I can have morality without objectivity. It could
Okay,
be
so what would be the origin of your morality then?
my brain.
So would you say your surroundings, your brain chemistry, how it operate, how it collects information?
Yeah, collective experiences.
Okay. So let's say, and so it would be subjective to you, but the thing is, I guess my argument would be that God is unchanging, and that yeah, God is eternal and unchanging. His actions and decisions are not influenced based off of bias or where humans often are. So our we would be, let's say if you had a starving African child that was literally starving, that needed to eat, and stole food to live, right? That would be I guess morally right because he was about to pass away, right?
Okay.
But in the grand scheme of things, God is God is unchanging and and objective because stealing is still wrong. We're not defining that stealing is all right. But in this scenario, since people are people, it is subjective, right? So I would say morality is objective. In yes, morality is objective, but
Okay, look, are you Christian?
yeah, 100%.
Okay, so in the Levitical law where it says that you can like stone somebody for being gay or having gay schmecks, is that okay? Is that objectively good to you?
I think that God says killing is a divine punishment, and are often
Yes,
contradictions because
yes,
people are
that's not what I
people.
asked you, right? I asked you in the Levitical law, specifically 2013, where God says you can stone somebody for having gay schmecks.
Yeah,
Would that be good or bad to you by God?
people do evil. People do evil.
That's not what I asked you, right? So let's try again. In your eyes, is it good or bad to stone somebody for having gay schmecks?
I think it's bad just in general to stone somebody. No,
Okay.
regardless if they're
Okay, so then you disagree with God's morality in the Bible, right?
Food-wise, what's left is yours.
perfect.
When you're done, put the plates in the dishwasher and stuff.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you. Thank you. I love
The
you.
rest of everything.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you said well, my fault. My mom came in.
So then you disagree with God in the Bible, right? About his objective morality. He's wrong in the Bible where he says you can stone somebody.
No, because that's what I was getting to is God is objective, right? God's what He says does not change, but you also have divine punishment because people do evil things, and God brings people
All right. So
to
let me
bring
let me let me start one
judgment.
more time. I don't think you're being dishonest. I suspect you're trying to be. All right. Do you think it's good or bad to stone somebody for having gay schmecks? Yeah, good or bad?
That's bad, bro. I
Okay.
mean,
So then you disagree with your Bible, right? When
no,
it says God.
that's what I was trying to explain. You didn't let me explain it though. That's what I'm saying.
Do you disagree with the Bible where it says you can do that, or do you agree with it?
I agree with the Bible 100%.
Okay, so then you would do agree that you can stone somebody for having gay schmecks, correct?
That's why I have to define my thing, and that's what I was trying to do. Is I was trying to say that people God. Let me say, says killing is divine punishment because and it's not a contradiction because people do evil things and people do not. God brings people to bring divine punishment or to bring the punishment upon the evil. He doesn't intervene because we have free will, but he says that he brings people and brings people to do these punishments because there is.
Okay, so whatever God says is good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if God came down tomorrow and said, Mari, go ahead and grape your whole family, would you do it?
That would not be in God's like I would say I forgot the belief of it, but God I believe that God doesn't he doesn't talk to us now. He there's only a few people that God actually talked to in the Old Testament, and that was it. And right now that like people don't get divine revelation from God right now.
Okay, so what if they did, right? What if they did get divine revelation?
But
Would you do it?
that's not in this world though. So I can't even entertain
So
it.
let's just say in this world, somebody got divine revelation, you did,
Yeah,
and God told you that you should grape your family.
but
Would
that's not
you
in this
think it's
world though.
good to do that?
Okay, so I would say the same thing in the same scenario. Let's say
Yes or no, right? It's a yes or no.
I would ask God to show Himself and to prove that He is really talking to me, and
Right,
that
he did. He did. He proved it to you. You're convinced it's God for sure.
that contradicts God though. Like literally contradicts Himself.
Where's the contradiction?
That God says, "Go ahead and make your whole family."
Yeah, where would that be?
What are you talking about? You said what?
How would that be a contradiction? Where's the contradiction there? Why couldn't God say that? He said it in the case of slave women
No,
in the Jewish law.
dude. He says, let me look it up real quick. He literally
He
says,
says you can enslave women in Exodus 21:7. He says you can enslave people as sex slaves.
he said, wait, in the same in Exodus, I forgot what verse it is, but in Exodus, he says that you should not have incest with your siblings, your
We're
aunt.
not talking about incest, sir. We're talking about the enslavement of women in Exodus 21:7.
Okay, what I'm saying though is, so what are you saying basically?
I'm saying that this doesn't seem impossible for God to tell you. There's no contradiction in God suggesting this to you. So would you do it? Would you grape your family if God said it was good to do that?
That is literally it doesn't make any sense, bro. I'm saying that God does not intervene in divine, or does not intervene in revelation
Say
nowadays.
yes or no. It's not. If you have a problem with this question, show me the contradiction in the statement.
Okay, and
God could say this to
in
you.
Leviticus 18 through 18:6 through 18, he says your mother, or do not various forms of incest, and forbidden includes relationships with your mother, your father, wife, your sister, half sister, your grandmother, grandson, your uncle, your auntie, and your close family members.
What if God came down and said, "This is the new law"? Because remember, God has the new covenant.
No,
Remember, from the old to the new.
No, that's not what it is. Jesus came to fulfill the law and prophecy.
But the morality changes from the first book to the sequel, right? So the point is that God's morality can change depending on the situation.
That's what I was saying earlier. Is God's morality does not change because it's
Okay, so then let's go to Samuel 15:3, where God says to destroy the Amalekites and kill children and grape the wives of the people who have died.
That's what I'm saying. God sends people to
Hold on, Mari. Listen to what I just told you.
I understand what you said because I've had these conversations with people before.
Okay, great.
So I know what you're saying.
Then it's perfectly within God's logic and reasoning
No,
to
it's in your
suggest to great people.
It's in your logic because you have a subject morality. God is object.
Mari, I'm sorry, but that was absurd. This has nothing to do with my morality. I'm critiquing your morality, and I'm asking you, when God said in Samuel 15, two great people, two murder people, including babies, it doesn't seem impossible that God would suggest such a thing.
So I would say that he doesn't say two babies, but I would say that there is a divine punishment, and he does send people not to condone, but
You're not answering my question. You're not answering my question.
I am answering it.
If God came down tomorrow and told you to grape somebody,
That is
would you
against
do it?
Leviticus
Would you
18
do it?
through 18. That's against his own word.
It's not, because in Samuel 15 he said you can grape somebody.
No,
They're called the spoils of war.
no, that's so intellectually dishonest, bro. That is 100%.
What do you think a spoil of war means?
I guess to a Christian, I would be if God said to me, I would that would not even come across my mind.
Well, it would, because in the Bible, God says you can take the spoils of war. You can take the woman. You can take the virgin woman and keep them for yourself. And you can destroy the babies. That's literally what your God told you. The people, the Israelites.
Okay, I would say that there is divine punishment, and God sends people to bring that punish or that judgment upon people, and I think that's 100%.
So then you disagree with me that God, in some cases, thinks it's okay to grape somebody for punishment.
No, he sends people.
Okay, so then is it good for God to have commanded that in Samuel 15, or is it bad for God to have commanded that in Samuel 15? Which one?
And so that's what I'm saying is there's there's already evil in this world, right? There's already evil in this world. God is not.
I'm sorry. That was just too dishonest for me to continue. He can't answer a simple question. I'm sorry.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, it says to prove you if God is real, it's almost asking to prove like love, hate, and like different kinds of emotions. So, and I agree with you when you say that, that because I believe that atheists sometimes have a better morality than Christians. So I understand that because you don't need to believe in God to have morals. But there is evidence that God is real. For
Where?
example, um, the trees the trees is so very how can I say it? They're very complex, just the way our human brain is, our eyes, our nose, everything runs so smoothly. And based on our life evidence, we know that if there's, for example, if you go to a forest, I'm pretty sure you heard this one before. You go to a forest and you find a painting, you know there's a painter. So you don't really need to see if there's evidence, just the fact that you see there's a painting, you assume that there's
Right.
a painter.
I understand. You see a painting, you know there's a painter, right? You
Right.
see a car, you know there's a
Mechan-
car maker. But when you see a volcano, does that mean there must be a volcano man behind it? Is there a magma man underneath the volcano pushing the magma out? When you see rain, does that imply a rainmaker, some guy in the sky with a hose spraying down the rain? No. Some things don't require people or builders or makers to happen. They happen without any catalyst, any intentional catalyst. It's just nature. And
So
that's the
I
case in the case of trees, in the case of our brains. It's called evolution. Evolution can yield complexity over time.
so in your point of view, basically, because based on life evidence, you never seen that evolution cannot be proven. For example,
It's a
what
fact.
taught an eye to be an eye, or a nose to be a nose?
You're question begging intention, and I agree that at first you look at an eye, you look at a brain, you go, "Wow, it's so complex. Who must have designed it that way?" Well, the problem is that we know very well how the eye evolved. It evolved multiple times independently in nature, and it involves photoreceptor cells that first coordinate into circular forms and then spherical forms, and then there's all kinds of different evolutionary steps. But again, there's no buddy making or shaping the eye. It's called evolution, natural selection. Over billions and billions of years, it's like tiny, tiny steps. Small changes over long periods of time make big changes in retrospect, right? It's
But
like
what
walking
evidence do
up
you have for that, though?
the fossil record, DNA evidence. We have lab experiments that demonstrate this.
Which those are debatable to this day. There's some scientists that disagree.
There is no debate, sir. Just because some people disagree doesn't mean that there's a debate about this in any serious way. Evolution's a fact. We can observe it in lab experiments. Ever hear of Richard Linsky's experiment, where he took bacteria and saw their population split through about 20 years, and saw that they've changed sufficiently enough to be rendered nearly different species, right? That's speciation in a lab. We've also discovered thousands of transitional fossils that were key signs of convergent and divergent evolution. There's no question about this in any scientist's mind who actually has done rigorous science in this field.
How about, okay, can I ask you this? Can you prove that God doesn't exist?
Which one? Which God?
Well, whatever God you could, whatever God you think of.
Well, if you say God is a square circle, well, then obviously that's a contradictory thing. If you think God is a man in the sky that can tell us, that counts for every bird and every animal on the planet, every worm, well, there's no evidence of that, right? It depends what you mean by God.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is, well, if let's say that, can you prove the God of the Bible to be wrong?
I can give reasons why I think it's unlikely for that God of the Bible to exist. I mean, look at all the evil in the world that exists. It seems unlikely that a good God would make a world with so much inherent gratuitous suffering and evil.
Well, according to the Bible, because I know that you mentioned the Bible before, God made everything perfect, but because of Adam and Eve, they sinned, which brought destruction, evil, and all these types of sicknesses and all these things that we see today.
Okay, so Adam and Eve were perfect in the beginning,
Yes,
but then they made an imperfect mistake?
yes, they made the mistake.
That seems contradictory, sir. How can a perfect being make a mistake?
Not okay. When it says perfect, meaning they had no sin, they had no evil in them, and then God placed an option that says basically God did not just want to. He gave us free will by placing that tree, the forbidden fruit. So when Adam and Eve took that fruit, it was their own decision to make the sin or to commit sin, which
But
caused all the evil.
saying something's perfect and saying that they have no sin, those are two different things. Because do you think babies have sins today? Do you think babies have committed sins?
No, I actually believe that babies are perfect.
Oh, okay, well, but then why would that? How would that explain evil? Because from the first thing you said was that they're perfect.
Yes, and when those babies grow up, then they're gonna make decisions that will make them not perfect.
Okay, how about the fact of animals suffering? Right? Why
Mhm.
do you think animals have free will?
I believe they do.
You think animals have free will and make free choices, and they're
I
thinking about their
believe that.
choices?
So okay, so basic. Okay, I understand your question now. No, they don't have free will.
Okay, so why would God design animal suffering? Why would God design animals to eat each other and harm each other constantly for billions of years? Why would God create so much suffering in these poor animals?
Well, because we corrupted them. Are we talking about the Bible? Yeah.
Right. So
So, for example,
no.
you,
Do you think animals existed before humans?
if animals existed before humans, yes.
Okay, great. So do you understand that animals before us existed and died the same way and were predated on and were preyed upon?
According to the Bible, no.
Okay. So you don't think animals existed
No, they did, but
like
they did not require eat. They were not carnivores. Um,
lions were not carnivores?
Correct. According to the Bible, it might not make sense to you, but in the book of Revelation, it talks about how a lion can be with a lamb without eating them. They're going to be together with no, and there's not going to have a desire to kill each other.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to
So
say
how
is,
long ago is this? Is about 6,000 years ago?
according to the history of the Bible, yes.
Okay. So about 6,000 years ago, lions were all vegetarians, and were they all on the boat together?
According to the book, yes, the lions were together. The animals went by two by two.
Right. Well, the problem is that about a few about a few months ago, people have discovered in Russia a well preserved lion cub that was about 15,000 years old. How do you explain that?
I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know how to take a lab test on it.
Yeah, so that's the problem, right? This is a very simple problem in your line of in your belief. That very simple science easily debunks this kind of belief about an ark and about these people becoming vegetarians with lions, right? We have fossils that debunk all this stuff. We have geological history that debunks the flood. There couldn't have been a global flood, um, especially not in this areas you're suggesting they happen.
Well,
And
the thing is, again, not all scientists agree on this, because you're talking about. I'm pretty sure you're talking about carbon dating, that you're able to take the date. It's like, okay, this fossil is this much this is how old the fossil is. But that even scientists today disagree with that. Not all scientists agree in that
Nobody
same
said
logic.
every scientist agrees. What we're saying is that the evidence demonstrates something powerful, and that's a different thing, right?
But that's the problem.
There's
Scientists
still
disagree with the evidence.
consensus in science that aligns with the evidence, and just because some people might disagree doesn't mean that science has been undermined. No, that's not how this works. Science doesn't care about your opinion. Science just cares about the evidence, and the evidence is overwhelming that you're wrong. The evidence is highly stacked against you.
And then going back to the 6,000 years, that's what we have as history. But the Bible doesn't literally say it's going to be 6,000 years. We just know that human history that's written in the Bible was around 6,000 years. I don't know how that's going to relate to science, but what I do know is that
Sir, we have trees older than 6,000 years old. There are trees older than your Bible.
based on what? Because of the rings of the trees?
Based on rings and other things, yes.
No, that not again. You could say that, but again, that evidence is always disagreed with. The rings could
Sure.
also mean
Eddie,
it could also
do you know
mean
that? Do you know that a lot of people disagree with the Bible being
yes, I
authentic?
do.
Okay, so does that mean that the Bible's undermined because a couple people disagree?
No, but what I'm saying
Okay, so
is
then
that
the same applies to science. Just because a couple people who happen to be probably Christian and are biased doesn't mean that science is undermined. There are going to be biased scientists. It's obvious. It's human nature to be biased. The problem is that the evidence, in other words, the fruits of science are things that you can't. You're gonna have a very hard time trying to overcome that. The evidence is highly stacked against you in this. I'm sorry.
but
Geology, the Bible's a lie.
to say that there's no evidence for God is false. There's a lot of evidence.
Well,
For
it's not
example,
it's not very good evidence. Let's just say that it's not very
okay,
good evidence.
like for example, prove to me that you love. You can't prove to me that. Prove to me that you hate.
Yes, I can. I can show
How?
you pictures of me and my family. I can show you videos and pictures. I can hook myself up to an MRI machine and show you the parts of the brain, the hippocampus, the amygdala that light up when I.
Just because you have a
family.
picture, it
I
shows
can
you
hug
could be an
people.
actor.
We can see behaviors that exemplify love. I don't need God to love anything.
Yeah, but you know that, but you can't prove to me. You could have pictures, but
I can.
there's a lot of
demonstrate
actors
love
out
to you.
there.
Look. We have good evidence that I can love somebody, right? Behavioral evidence. We have photo evidence, video evidence. We have all these pieces of evidence that demonstrate I love somebody.
And where does love come from?
The brain.
And it just came up all of a sudden. Everyone feels love, and it's just the brain chemicals that just cost you what to love and what love is.
Love is a series of chemical processes in the brain, and it's quite amazing that it exists, and it's astounding that we can love. But yes, ultimately, it is just chemical reactions in the brain, but that doesn't take away from the beauty of it. The beauty of the experience of love is still intact, even though the medium in which we experience it, it's just mere molecules.
Again, and once again, it's brain chemistry. So you can't prove to me that your brain is capable to love somebody. You could say, "Oh, I kiss my parents."
Do you understand that we can take MRI scans of your brain and we can
Yes.
test where in parts of the brain light up when you are loving somebody? See, when you hug somebody, we can test for where those signals are being produced in the brain, and we know it's in the amygdala, for example. We know it's in many parts of the brain that generate dopamine and serotonin. These are the parts of the brain that we feel love through.
Well, for example, people love killing, and they actually feel connected with their victims when they're killing. Like we seen cases in serial killers where they're killing, they have that dopamine in their mind. So
Yes,
how can you prove
I
to me that
agree.
they're loving?
That's a good point. How about the cases where people have these dopamine spikes when they are doing these crazy things? Well, the problem is that there's a difference. There's a key difference between somebody loving a family member and somebody loving somebody doing those murderous actions, because other parts of the brain's complex. It's not just as simple as saying, oh, it's only these two chemicals. It's a mix of different things. And in the case of the murderers, you're going to see different parts of the brain light up as well with that dopamine, right? So that's how we can make predictions about what's happening in the brain. It's far more complex, right? You're reducing neuroscience to something like, oh, it's just two chemicals. It's far more than that. And we can make distinctions between somebody loving a family member and somebody murdering somebody.
So basically, the only evidence to know if you love somebody is by using an MRI. That's
No, I didn't say that. I mentioned several pieces: photo evidence, video evidence, behavioral evidence. All of those can be evidence for love.
That's not true though, because how many times have we seen people show a smile in their pictures and they're loving people, but then at the end of the day they're doing evil things against their family.
Because look, we take a look at the corroborating data, right? We don't just take a look at one piece of data and go, aha, he's smiling, that must mean he's in love. No, we take a look at other pieces of data and they corroborate together. That's what generates the story of, the things we believe in. We don't just take a look at one piece of data and say, aha, that's what you're doing with God. You're looking at the Bible and going, aha, that means God's real, the Bible.
No, so
What we really do is we take a look at all the other pieces of evidence. And if you're investigating somebody who's smiling but is a mass murderer, well, we can take a look at other pieces of data. What did they do before that event? Were they, doing something mischievous? Were they, what is their history with their family like? Did they ever do assault or something? We can look at all these other pieces of data. We don't just look at one piece of data.
The reason I'm arguing with this is because I admitted since the beginning, we cannot prove that God is real. There's no proof, but there's evidence. But you deny the evidence, that the evidence is higher against it. But in how we live based day by day, there's more evidence that God is real by the way that we're able to communicate with one another, the way that there's different languages.
So Muslims make the same argument you do. Look, Mike, the evidence of Allah is that you're breathing, right? Allah did this. Well, so then that's evidence.
But what's the likelihood of that?
It might be evidence, but the problem is it's weak evidence, right?
Okay, but
hold on, Eddie, hold on. There are different degrees of evidence. There are different degrees of credence. There are different ways we approach these epistemological questions about how we know things. It's not as simple as saying, oh, look, Mike, I have evidence of God. It's trees, right? When somebody can easily counter that with something natural, right? We have to weigh different things. It's more of a calculus than
you're right.
Look, there's a tree there for God. That's
you're right. You're right about that. But what I'm trying to say is, for example, what's the likelihood of everything coming to chance out of according to what people believe or scientists believe, it was a low probability cause that it would be almost impossible to redo it. So the likelihood of everything to be the sun where it is, the stars where it is, the moon, the creatures in the ocean, like everything had to be exact to make it living here. The likelihood of that happening is very low.
Eddie, do you have an example of another universe where the sun is another mile away from us or another 1,000 light years away from us?
There's no evidence of another Earth.
There you go, right? There you go. We only have one Earth. We only have one example of a universe that happened. Look at that. The chances are 1 in 1, 100%. So we don't really know the chances. There could be other universes, sure, but we don't know where we fit in that probability cloud. We don't know the probability of a universe like ours existing. It could be 1 out of 1. It could be 1 out of 1,000. It could be 1 out of 1,000,000,000. It could be 1 out of infinity. What if there's an infinite number of universes? And it's going to be obvious. It's going to be trivial that one like ours happens. So again, we don't know how to approach this question. What are the odds of us existing? This is a very hard question to answer because we don't have other examples of universes.
Right. And I'm gonna leave you with this question. I'm about to log off, but I wanted to see what classifies if if do you believe there's good and evil? And if there is, what is good and what is evil, and who decides that?
We do. What is good to me is just what we don't like. I mean, what we do like. What is evil is what we don't like. That's it.
So it's us making the good and evil.
Yep.
Because to my you said something about subjective. Something that's someone is good, for them it could be evil, and for someone that's evil could be good for them. So in reality, good and evil don't exist
Well, they do exist. They're just subjectively exist.
according to you, but good
According
and
to-
evil does
Yes,
not exist.
yes, Eddie. According to me, babies are good. To other people, babies are evil. Right?
Right, so good and evil does not exist.
Hold on. Who's right? We have differing opinions. Who's right? Well, there is nobody that's right. We're not. When the moment we say something subjective, what we mean is there is no objective fact of the matter. Right? There is no fact of the matter here. It's all opinions. So what? It's all opinions. Get over it. We all have different opinions as to what is good or bad. Live with it. And that's far more easier to understand than suggesting that there is a God who, okay, in the Bible it says you have to you can't wear mixed fabrics. Well, that doesn't seem very intuitive.
Well, that's based on
gay, right? This is insane. When we take the biblical understanding of morality and try to fit it into today's modern understanding, it just makes no sense.
right. And then something to just to also mention is
Right.
the Bible, when you said the Levitical law, when they would stone, for example, homosexual people that practice homosexuality, the people that practice these things, they knew that the law was to kill their life. They knew this. It's like, for example, here in the U.S., we actually support death penalties. Whether we believe it's right or wrong, there's some people that are against it, but the law states, for example, there's actually nations today that have these laws in place.
Okay, but what is your point here? The point to me, do you think that it's okay to do that, to stone somebody to death for having
if it was based on law, like let's say that the nation that you're in, it says do not do this or this will be the consequence, then it's not if we believe it's right or wrong. It's just the law is the law. It's like how do you like for stealing?
I understand that's the law according to the Bible. The problem is that there's a moral dilemma here. Do you think that stoning somebody to death for having gay schmecks is good?
If it was based on a law as a nation, look at it this way: is there nations today?
Is it good or bad, Eddie? Is it good or bad? Which one?
Okay, let me give you let me explain. No, I know, but let me explain. For example, when God, if you're talking about the Bible, Jesus died on the cross. The Bible says that he fulfilled the law, meaning that the law is no longer necessary to end people's lives. Rather, by Jesus dying on the cross, we are saved by grace.
Okay, so before it was okay to stone somebody for being gay, but now it's bad?
If that was God's law and that's the nation's law, that's how they did it.
That's
it's like,
not what
okay,
I asked you, Eddie, that's not what I asked you. Was it good in your eyes to have that law?
Well, the thing is that Jesus wouldn't require me to end someone's life. If I was living in those things,
Eddie, let's try one more time where you're going to be dishonest. Was it good or bad for that law to exist in the Bible?
As a nation, no.
Okay, so it was bad. So God's law is bad.
No, I didn't. As a nation, what I meant is, as a nation is not bad.
Is God's law good or bad?
It's good.
Okay, so that law where God says to stone people for being gay, murder them, that was good to you.
People understood that it was the law.
Eddie, was it good to you?
No, because you're trying to take away the fact that the law. It's like it's like.
Look, theists come up here all the time and they pridefully suggest that they have morality and atheists can't have morality. But when it comes to simple questions, like is it okay to stone somebody? Right? They get flabbergasted. They don't know how to defend themselves. that to me signifies a bad path to morality. To me, it's easy. Yeah, it's bad. Done. It's bad. It's bad. To them, oh, it has to be so complicated because they're trying to find ways to excuse it, and that to me is a sign that they don't have very good, reliable ethics. But yeah, it is terrible that they did that to people back then. And the fact that people just gloss over that, right? Theists gloss over this, like, oh, no big deal. When the Bible permitted so many terrible actions in the past, including slavery. Something's happening. I'm not getting people to come up.
How you doing?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? How
Yes.
you doing?
Great.
That's good to hear you back. So, since you don't believe in God, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you have a free will to do whatever you want it to be because if you kill someone, unalive someone, or rape or whatever, you got nothing to worry about because there's no God. So you can do whatever you want to do, right?
No, not right. So
No.
no, because I don't do things because I fear punishment. I do things because I really genuinely want to do good. And I judge myself. I reflect on myself. I do introspection on myself. I don't need somebody else to tell me that I'm doing good or bad. Um, I I take accountability for myself, and I don't rely on a book or a magic man to tell me if I did good. I
Yeah,
don't do it
but
in the fear of punishment. I
yeah,
do it because I generally want to
yeah,
do
look,
good.
but our book says that these stuffs will get you through the sin and you go to hell. We got something to fear about it, but you got nothing to fear about it. So you do
I
more
do have
stupid things
something to
than us.
fear about it. I do have fear about it. I don't want my society to crumble because of my actions. I care about my family, my friends, the people around me, my community. That's what I have to fear, losing them, being ostracized from them. That's a fear I have. But that's not the only reason why I do good. There are many reasons. And the idea that it's only because the Bible says to do good, therefore you should, or only because the Bible says there are consequences, therefore you shouldn't. That's pathetic. There's a
Uh,
much more dynamic scenario happening here
I
when it
mean,
comes to ethics.
Mike, look, who doesn't want to be rich? Who doesn't want to be a billionaire? Who doesn't want to live a good life? So you got no fear. You can do whatever you want to do. You can go and rob the bank or kill someone to get that money to be rich. You have nothing to fear.
No,
Why
sir.
not?
Do you understand
Then
that?
why not?
Because I have a functioning brain. And I don't just sit there and go, what does the Bible say today? Should I grape? Should I murder? No? Okay. No, I actually use my brain and I have an amygdala in my mind. I have a fear aspect. I have a love aspect. I have other aspects of my brain that tell me how to decide. And
Exactly.
I take a look at the experiences of people around me and I go, wait a minute, I don't want them to have worse experiences. I care about their well-being. I have empathy. That's all calculated in my moral framework. And to reduce morality as something as simple as just
Exactly.
does it help me or
That's
does
why
it not?
Hitler killed.
To reduce morality to something as simple and trivial as does it benefit me or no is pathetic. And that's precisely why I'm not religious, because it's a baseless, useless sense of morality.
That's the point. Look, Mike, Hitler was an atheist as well. Do you know how many people he murdered? He didn't give a shit about
So,
anybody.
so first of all, he was not necessarily an atheist, but even if he was, of course people do bad things, regardless if they're atheist or not. Christians have murdered before. Does that mean that it's impossible to be a good person as a Christian? No. This is a terrible reason.
And another example of being God is true because look, I mean, an atheist, they don't care if they have a sister or mother. They can do anything to them. They can rape them because what do they worry
No.
about?
You gotta
What
be
do they
trolling.
worry about,
You
man?
gotta be all right. I really hope that was a troll. I hope that was a troll. But we do have worries about affecting our family. Any person with a functioning brain, or at least a brainstem, understands that my actions have consequences, and I can put myself in other people's shoes and realize that they suffer as well. So this is all part of my moral calculus, okay? And if you can't even do that, then you don't have morality. You have a book. You have orders.
Believe in God. If that
I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just trying to get reasons why God exists.
okay. So I mean, my personal reason for why God exists, I mean, just little organism, like, just us, microbes, anything that you can think of, like life on this planet that can contain energy and have free will and subset to do with that energy. It's so please. I mean, that's my biggest gripe for God, I guess. Like life itself.
Okay, cool, man.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Actually, hold on. Let me do something. All right. I mean, I'm gonna say something, well, not like similar to what the last guy said, but it's probably gonna be like make a little more sense. It does have a little bit to do with like life. I'm not gonna dive into like any specific religion or anything. More so just like so basically currently the most widely accepted idea for theory for life itself is abiogenesis. And basically what it is just randomly somehow under the perfect conditions at just the right time, the most, just it's completely illogical and completely unlikely and has zero evidence, and just basically says that spontaneously an entire, not just the first ever organism, but an entire ecosystem, because we know ecosystems are fragile, and it like you remove one thing and the whole thing falls apart, and they're all dependent upon one another. Um, Basically, an entire ecosystem just spontaneously appeared, and under the right conditions, and that's basically how the whole theory goes. It's very illogical.
No. So this is a complete caricature of abiogenesis. Abiogenesis describes a series of processes. Firstly, chemical evolution took place on the early Earth. Now, the early Earth's conditions didn't just magically happen. The early Earth was produced by the early bombardment period, where there was asteroids in the early solar system that made it warm, and these asteroids contained water in them, and they would smash down the Earth. They would vaporize, turn that into an atmosphere full of hydrogen, and ammonia and methane. When you introduce some electrical energy, you get amino acids, and this is what the Miller-Urey experiment demonstrated, which is evidence behind abiogenesis. So you get amino acids, and these amino acids, they can combine to form polypeptides. And these polypeptides can go ahead and form nucleotides, which then can polymerize.
Okay, when you say they can, is it like that,
that
like they
creates.
will, or is
Oh,
it
oh,
just
oh.
like a possibility?
It's not just a possibility, sir. It's
Okay, when you're saying
determined.
it can, it's like as a direct result of, like it just will happen, or
It's a
more
chemical
so it's a
process. If
possibility.
you have the right ingredients and you put them in a chemical system, you get an output.
No, because it sounds like you're
All the way.
listing off a series of possibilities opposed to like an actual, you know.
Sir, chemistry happens all around the earth right now as we're speaking, right? Do you
Yeah,
understand that in the oceans, chemistry is happening?
yeah.
Okay, so you don't need God for that, right? What we're saying is that there are naturalistic reasons why.
I mean, that wasn't what I was getting at, though.
Okay, great. So what's your problem with what I'm describing?
I mean, I was saying that it's completely illogical to say that a series of processes, because I didn't like get yet to like the bulk of my point, which is that life is very complex. Like if you compare life to a computer, it is like a fact that even a single, like a cell of organic matter is much more complex and harder to form than an entire computer. And like say spontaneously a computer appears on a planet, you can't just say that that's something that is formed naturally over time. You need a complex mind for that.
Okay. So let me explain to you why this is completely incorrect. Firstly, the idea that a cell is complex is correct. However, you're taking a look at modern day cells, modern day DNA, and you're suggesting, "Oh, look, Mike, it's too complicated for somebody for it to happen naturally. It must be God." Well, the problem is you're forgetting the precursors to those things. You're forgetting the thousands and millions of micro steps that had to occur to get to the current cells we have today. The first cells were far more primitive than they are today, and they were far easier to form in the earth. Whereas today they've been carrying all that baggage with them throughout the billions of years. So that's why they're complex today.
All you're saying is that steps took place in order to
hold
make it.
on, hold on, hold
You
on,
didn't say
hold on,
anything.
hold on. Secondly, you are not providing a rigorous scientific criticism. You're just going, "Oh, that's illogical. I don't understand it." This seems to be an argument from incredulity. You're not providing a scientific criticism. You're just saying, it just sounds bad. Therefore, God. Right? We need something scientific if you're going to approach this in a scientific manner. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's not like anything I was saying. I was saying all complex things don't form just like spontaneously. It is impossible for something as complex, like way more complex than the most complex like computers that we've ever made, to spontaneously appear, and not that just that itself, an entire ecosystem. There's not a single thing in the entire universe
We're
that can
not saying
survive
it
without
happens
other
spontaneously.
organisms.
Sir, we're
So
not
you're
saying
basically
this
promoting like a theory of something that like a theory that oh my god, I'm having a huge brain fart. Hold on, let me think. Yeah, you're promoting a theory that's basically saying not just a single organism has spontaneously appeared, but an entire ecosystem of organisms
We're
that
not
somehow have
saying.
a system and that are dependent upon one another, like an
Sir,
entire food chain
sir,
spontaneously appearing out
sir,
of nowhere. That
sir,
and
sir, we're not saying they spontaneously appeared out of nowhere. We're not,
okay,
this isn't
that's not
God.
what I'm saying, but you're
This
promoting a
isn't
theory that basically says under this condition.
this isn't God. It didn't just spontaneously appear one day and made the world in 6 days. What we're suggesting is that there are a series of small steps that occurred. Right? What you're doing right now is you're on the top of the pyramids. You're going, how is it possible that the pyramids were built in 1 minute? They weren't. It took decades and decades and generations and
All you're saying is that steps occurred.
yes, that's how complex things happen, through steps. And the steps in which abiogenesis yielded the complexity of life we see today are almost nearly fully understood. And the science is overwhelming and increasingly stacking up in favor of abiogenesis, and there is no evidence in favor of God doing it. And you're not providing, yet again, you're not providing a scientific criticism.
I'm telling you that all you said just then was just that steps occurred. And what I'm saying is that it's much more logical to assume that a complex mind made something so complex of like not just
Oh,
something complex, but a system of
oh,
complex things that are dependent upon one another,
oh. Okay,
other than just
so,
like,
so you just said something very interesting. You just said that God's mind is complex, and isn't God infinitely smart? Doesn't that mean that God is infinitely complex?
I mean,
So,
that's not for me to comment on. I wouldn't know.
so who designed God?
I'm not sure. That's not what I'm getting at, but like that's not my point at all. I'm just saying that it was created by a
It
complex
was
mind.
your point.
Not That's not the art.
Now you're being dishonest. It was precisely your point that complexity requires design. And
I mean,
the
that's
minute I
no, you if
suggested
you
that
want to go
God's
circular and
complex, you
make
say
like
no.
this existential argument and then say, "Oh, who created this? Who created that? Who created that?" Like I think you're a smart guy. You see the problem in that. But I'm telling you that like there's someone that created that. Like how we know
Why?
that someone created the pyramids, you can't just say, "Well, who created that? Who created them? Who created them?" We just know for a fact that someone created the pyramids.
The
And that's what you're
problem
trying
is
to
that
say. Like that's what you're trying to do to me right now.
the problem is that you don't require a maker for life. Just like we don't need a
I
maker
mean,
for
for
living.
something as complex as life, like an entire life form in itself, like a single-celled
Sure,
organism,
the weather
is
is
much more complex than anyone in the entirety of humanity has ever
so is the
created.
weather. So is the weather complex. The weather system is complicated, sir. Evaporation,
It's
condensation.
not nearly, not nearly.
Hold on. Hold on. Relax. Weather is complex. There are thousands of factors that go into how weather happens. The weather you see in your outside right now, they're very complicated. Yet you don't make that same argument for the weather because we know how weather happens. The same with abiogenesis, although it's a bit more obscure to theists especially, but to scientists,
So,
it's really fully understood how life occurred. We never have to appeal to God, and
so when
that's
you
the
say the
problem.
weather is complex, because like every planet period has weather, like what aspects of the weather, like the Earth's weather is complex, is what you're saying?
Earth weather is very complex,
What
sir.
makes it complex?
We have clouds, we have evaporation, we have pressures, we have humidity levels, we have
So the
heat,
fact that the sun
currents.
evaporates water is complex.
You didn't, wow, you didn't listen to all the
You
other
said we have
factors.
evaporation.
I didn't just say that, sir. I said evaporation, condensation, cloud cover, humidity, albedo. We have currents, ocean currents,
You're
thermal
just
hurricane
saying
currents.
reactions. Those aren't complex. That's
Those
just
are
how certain things
factors,
react.
sir. Those are factors that take into that to play into the weather system, which is very complex. It's not just evaporation, so stop caricaturizing what I'm telling you.
I'm just saying you're basically just stating aspects of the weather and saying it's complex.
And you're doing that to cells.
No, I'm not. I'm saying because cells are more complex, they're like that like even something as small as a single-celled organism. Say the entirety of all of like everything
I
came
agree
even
with
came
you.
from single-celled organisms. That is
I agree with you that cells are complex, but you're forgetting the precursors to modern cells. The first cells were extremely simple, right? All you needed for them was RNA molecules encapsulated by a lipid membrane. That's it. We can make this in a lab in 2 seconds. It's not
we can make what
complex.
in the lab?
We can polymerize RNA in lab settings and in natural settings.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can make like or like.
Yeah,
Are you talking about organic matter?
organic matter is made all the time in labs, and so
Yeah,
is even RNA.
I know. I'm just saying
So we don't.
that even that is an example of complex minds making something complex,
No, it's
which
an
is to my
example.
point.
It's an example that it can be done naturally. It can be done in a natural setting.
No, no, no.
We
But
don't.
what you said is if this.
Stop. Scientific labs aim to replicate. In the case of biogenesis, they aim to replicate nature. So in the case of the RNA polymerization, what they did was they took clay phosphates from the outside. They literally went outside. They just introduced some nucleobases to the clay phosphates, and polymerization of RNA occurred. Right. This is not something that you need magical and extremely extravagant equipment. Right. It's something that nature would do. And in the same case, in the same as with the Miller-Urey experiment, where they took.
Okay, if it's something that nature would do, how come we haven't observed it?
We have observed it in lab settings. If you're talking about how we observed 4 billion years ago, no, we have not observed 4 billion years ago. We can't.
Like
We
which
can
lab
observe
settings?
it
Hold on.
happening.
Can you point me to some? I have my computer open.
Yeah. What was it?
You said like in lab settings we've observed it. Like, can you like point me to some like experiments?
Yeah, I explained to you the Miller-Urey experiment was one in which we made organic matter like amino acids, like dozens of them in a lab. You also
What did they observe?
they observed the formation of spontaneous formation of amino acids and some nucleotides.
Okay, so in a lab setting,
Right.
you're basically saying something in a lab setting is the same as something that nature would do. And I'm
Yeah,
telling you that's not something nature would do
it's
because we
not.
haven't observed nature doing it
It's
ever.
it's a very close replication of nature because
Why
what
would
they did-
something
hold
in a
on,
lab
hold
be close?
on. All they did was take a flask, introduce gases to it, introduce some energy to it, which would happen in nature, like in lightning, for example. And there you go. They have amino acids.
If it were as simple as you're implying it to be, then we would observe it.
We did.
But the entire theory of abiogenesis has never been like it has yet to even be proven. So if it's as easy, if it's as easy as you're saying it is, one, it would be proven. Two, it wouldn't be considered a
This
theory.
isn't how science works. You don't just go, that's even proven.
Okay, science is like if you see something.
Hold on and listen. Listen. Science doesn't work like this. That hasn't been proven 100%, therefore it's false. No, evidence stacks and stacks and stacks. And right now for abiogenesis, yeah, we don't have it fully proven. We don't know every single step. The puzzle isn't fully completed, but we have a good amount of the puzzle completed. And we have enough of it to say, yeah, it's just natural. There's no need for God. There's no evidence that God did any of this. It seems to be natural. And the evidence for it is ever growing, stacking, and getting more and more. And we have, for example, new evidence in the case of amyloids, which are a series of sheets of polypeptides that can perform metabolism. They can perform some primitive versions of autocatalysis, which would hint to the first types of living organisms. So you're forgetting all the evidence behind abiogenesis.
So you're naming a bunch of specific like experiments and observations that have to do with like certain steps that have to do with the bigger picture of the project, but never has the entire like step by step ever been observed that when it comes to the natural formation of something as complex as a life form.
I agree that we haven't seen every step occur, but we don't need that to happen.
Okay, so I'm telling you, if every single step is that unlikely, that is not something like that not like clearly isn't something naturally occurring. You can see that this step to this step is something that can naturally occur under the right.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Who said it's unlikely?
So it's likely. You're saying it's likely.
Yes, based on the growing amount of evidence.
Okay, now you're being disingenuous. Abiogenesis is not likely at all.
Oh my gosh. Then show me how it's unlikely.
Given the fact that we've never observed it in human history,
how does that make it abiogenesis? Stop. That doesn't make it unlikely. Just because we haven't observed every single step to it.
No, okay, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm talking about the abiogenesis occurring is unlikely. I'm not saying
sir, what is abiogenesis?
Like it's the most likely.
Let me ask you this. I don't think you know what you're critiquing. What is abiogenesis? Go ahead. What is it?
Okay, are you like knowledge testing me, or are you actually trying to like lay out?
What is it? Explain to me what it is.
I mean, it's not relevant for you to knowledge test me. I can like look it up.
You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I think you're very passionate about this. Like, yeah, abiogenesis is false, but I think you're mistaken and you're misguided. You don't know what it means, and what you should be doing is, instead of debating me, Learn about abiogenesis, learn about amylase sheets, learn about what autocatalysis means, learn about amino acids, learn about the Miller experiment, learn about it. You don't do that enough, and that's why people are so, oh, it must be false, because you don't understand it. All right, let's get one last victim. Hello?
Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to request.
It's going to be a troll. I can smell it.
Nah, I'm not a troll, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So I guess how I'm going to start arguing is you hold the belief that morality is subjective overall, but we can come to conclusion on these ought claims through a reason. We can come to what is right and what's wrong through reasoning, correct?
Okay.
I mean, I'm asking. That was a question.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay. So what would be the foundation of morality?
The foundation of morality is just preferences, right? I'm a moral anti-realist.
So grounded kind of in the brain then, right?
Yeah, it's in the brain.
Okay. So if it's grounded in the brain, would that same foundation go for other categories such as logic and ontology?
Yes, logic is also a mental process. So is mathematics.
Okay. So how can you well, I did forget to ask, are those things objective or subjective as well? Logic.
Okay. So logic isn't objective or subjective. Logic is a noun. So nouns aren't subjective or objective. They're just things, okay? Statements can be objective or subjective. So I don't understand your question.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is why would it be false if I were to say something is something that it's not? Like, I guess, why can't a chair be just some completely arbitrary other category? Like, what would be the ought behind that?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
I'm trying to ask you, why is it wrong for me to make these false claims?
What false claim? What do you mean?
I'm trying to ask, why is it wrong for me to make false claims in general?
Why is it wrong?
Yes, why is it wrong?
Definition, so when we say something's wrong, what we mean is it's illogical, right? In the case of logic or mathematics, right?
And logic is grounded in the brain, right? And logic is grounded in the brain, right?
My God, you let me speak?
I mean, I thought logic was subjective. I thought ontology was it was all subjective. That's what you just said, dude.
Listen to way too much like precept apologetics.
It doesn't matter how you think.
Dude, you're so misguided. And look, you seem like a nice person, but you're just so misguided. Okay. When we talk about logic, when we talk about logical statements, right? Yes, they come from the brain. All my brain is doing is like what AI is doing, right? Artificial intelligence, and it's in a simple way. It's making logical inferences, right? It's making them based on logical axioms that we assume.
Axioms are unjustified?
Yes, by definition.
Okay, then I can just say God just is as an axiom, dude.
That's not an axiom. God is a different statement. Oh my
God.
Relax and listen. When you talk about God, you're making a different statement or a different claim than something like an axiom. An axiom abides within a certain framework, a formal framework. It's different than just suggesting something exists or God exists, right? Any axiom we use is going to be something that abides to a formal framework. And for example, in the case of mathematics, 1 + 1, those are axioms. 1 is an axiom. 2 is what that means is an axiom. So we can make statements in our own minds about what 1 + 1 plus 1 equals 2 is. And that's something we can do completely within our own brains. I don't need God for that. I don't need something exterior to me to ground it in. It just happens in my mind. Go ahead.
I don't I don't think you understand what I'm trying to get at. I don't you're not really answering me, man.
Okay, what's your question? I'm sorry.
My question was, how do you what I'm getting at is, why is it wrong to make these false claims? Why is it incorrect if it's all just subjective and in the brain?
When we say incorrect, it just means that it defies the logical framework, right? It's incongruent, or there's a contradiction.
Subjective, dude.
It's what logic means, right? When we're saying something is illogical, we're saying that it doesn't follow the framework. It doesn't. There's
Okay, dude, you're not getting what I'm getting. I'm out of here, dude. Go cry to your husband.
What? I'm so flabbergasted. I just don't even know. I don't even. What? What the hell? What? Really? Hello? He thinks, how can a false claim be wrong if it's subjective? Why couldn't it be wrong? I don't understand the question, right? There's nothing that has to be objective about a statement. Or secondly, we can derive objective statements within logic, right? 1 + 1 is 2. That's an objective claim, objective fact. And so, yeah, we can come to objective facts within logical frameworks. So again, in both ways, it doesn't make sense. Objective facts, present axioms, are only assumptions. Yeah, assumptions. We can derive objective facts using axioms, which are inherently assumptions that we make about the world. But they're not just like, oh, assuming God exists, or assuming that birds are, pigs can fly. That's not an axiom we would use in logic or math, right? They have to be formal. They have to exist within a formal framework. They're not just like, random empirical claims about the world or synthetic claims. Hello? Hey, how are you?
Hey, I just came here, and you said we got to use our logic, right? And by using our logic, right, we could easily tell, like, everything has a creator, you know what I mean? By our logic, we know the building has a builder, right? So just like that, creation also has a creator, right? The bird, everything just cannot come out of nowhere, you know what I mean?
No. So
No?
when you suggest that a builder has a building has a builder, therefore there's
The building has a
God,
builder, yeah.
therefore a God built the universe. Well, the problem is that there are things that don't require builders, like the rain or earthquakes. Is somebody stopping the ground and making
No, but there
earthquakes? No,
has
they
to be some
just
kind of
make the
effect
sounds.
to that earthquake and everything, you know what I mean?
The point I'm trying to get to is that there are naturalistic reasons why things occur in the world. Not everything requires a person to make it or an agent to make it.
So where do you think this everything that you see came out of? You know, if it's natural, whatever, right? That you say it is.
That might be a bad question. Maybe it didn't come from somewhere. Maybe it always was there.
So something not like something was all its existence by its own will or power or something.
No, it's just always there. There's nobody
Yeah,
making
yeah. How is it always there? There has to be some kind of beginning to it, don't you think?
Okay, where did God begin?
Well, God is eternal, you know, he's not bound by time. That's the thing. We are bound by time, but God is
Well,
not bound
okay,
by
so
time.
if God could be eternal, why can't the universe be eternal?
But the universe has a beginning. God does not have a beginning. That's the thing.
Well, again, we don't know if the universe has a beginning. It could be infinite.
No, I mean, even science proves that everything has a beginning. Therefore, Earth also has.
No, look,
I just read
science
you read
doesn't.
Stephen Hawking, right?
This is lazy. Science does not say everything has a beginning. I don't know where you heard that, but that's
No,
not
no,
true.
no. I just read the book. It says science also like. Oh, well, let me try to prove you the source. Wait, give me one second. Now, I was reading this book. They said even science claims that Earth has a beginning. So therefore, if it came from something, it has to be an higher authority. Not because nothing cannot create something. You know, Earth can just not come out of nothing. You know what I mean?
What book was this? The Bible?
Not, not the. You funny, bro. Not the Bible. Come on now. No, I don't know. Wait, let me just pull it up. But like you see where I'm coming from, right? I believe everything has a beginning.
I
Including Earth.
understand. I understand your belief, but the problem is that it's not the case that everything has to have a beginning or a cause or a start. It could be the case that nothing has a start.
All right. From your perspective, right? Since you believe the Earth is eternal, do you think Earth has a beginning?
No,
I mean, it had a
I'm
beginning.
not saying the earth is eternal in the case that it was always here in present form. What I'm saying is that the universe in totality, right? All things perhaps are always there in some way. And obviously there's a cosmic evolution. There's different times. The problem is that there might be the case that time goes on forever in both directions, past and future.
So you believe in evolution?
Yes, evolution's a fact.
So we came from ape, right? That's according to you, right?
We are apes right now.
We are ape. So where did that ape came from? You know what I mean? Like, how did the ape had the beginning? You know what I mean? How did we even like
Okay,
became to
yeah,
exist?
this is
You know
this
what
is
I
a
mean?
this is a good question, right? If
All
we
right,
come
thanks.
from apes, where do they come from?
Right.
We are one species of ape, and there are other species of apes like chimps, bonobos, gorillas. Now, if you go back about 10 million years ago, you find that through a series of different apes that have slightly changed, right? They're slightly different over time. You go back about 10 million years ago, we find that we all have a common ancestor about 10 million years ago, a type of ape that we all came from. Now, evolution doesn't mean that we morph into something immediately. Like we don't turn into a fish or a deer. There's small incremental changes in your DNA over long periods of time, and that's what makes this happen. So it's like you are, let's say you're 20 years old right now. A year ago, you were 19. The year before that, you were 18, right?
No, but that still doesn't
So
prove where it came
there's
from.
there's small changes that have occurred over time to make you who you are today. Same
But
with evolution.
that still don't prove where that ape came from. I could be 18, 16, 15, right?
Yeah.
But I would have to have a
So,
beginning,
no,
right?
where did that ape come from? Well, again, that ape also has. You can go further back in time, and
Yeah,
that ape has another common ancestor, monkey-like species
yeah,
about 50 million years ago, and you go beyond that. You go
yeah,
to
yeah.
100
Where
million.
did the
Then you go.
first
Well,
ape
oh,
came
wait,
from?
wait,
You know?
hold on. Just listen. This is important. Then you can go 500 million years ago, fish, and then a billion years ago, bacteria, and then 4 billion years ago, other bacteria, simple celled organisms. And you find that the origin of life itself comes from the earth in oceans and waters and ponds. And that process of chemical evolution yielded the complexity of life we see today. And again, it's amazing to understand this, but it's just basic science. We now have a very good understanding of all this through science.
So you're saying we came from Earth, basically, right?
We are products of the earth. We breathe the air. We eat the food of the earth. We are completely products of the earth.
So how did the Earth made us, and then we multiply ourselves? Because Earth, like you said, it began with one ape, right? So how did another ape came to be? Like
Not
the
one
same
ape.
process?
Not one ape, right? So evolution happens on a population basis. It's not one ape. It's a population of apes that have enough genetic diversity to give rise to other apes. So it's not as simple as there being one ape making us, right? Look, I highly suggest you go learn evolution.
I mean,
It's the best thing you can possibly do. Learn some
yeah,
stuff.
I could give it a try, but I still believe everything has a beginning because I don't believe it.
Okay.
Nothing cannot create something. You know what I mean? Just like you came from something, right? You came from your mother womb, right? And like,
Okay, but the problem is that if you go far back enough, you might not need a beginning for everything, right?
no, obviously we do because nothing cannot create something, to my understanding, at least. Because
No, no,
we
no. Just like
we
in
have
the
a
way you
morality.
think
You know what I
God
mean?
is eternal, the
Like,
universe can be eternal.
I mean, no, I don't like hold to that ground, but I could give you the benefit of the doubt. Even if the earth is eternal, right? Where would we get our moral from? You know what I mean? To know what is right from what is wrong.
We get our
'Cause-
morals from listening and looking at other people and seeing how they act and how they behave and how they want to behave and how they want to live with me. And
nah,
I
that
adjust my actions accordingly by listening to others. I don't read a book and go, oh, what did the book say? Does the book say
I
to
mean, the
murder
book has
the
been
guy?
proven to be true, though. You know what I mean, Mike?
Oh, the book said to murder. Okay, I'll go ahead and murder now. I don't do that, right?
Hey, that's the
I
Old
use
Testament.
my brain to get morality.
And where did your brain got that morality from?
My environment, my surroundings, my evolution. Because morality has a lot to do with empathy. Empathy helped us survive. The apes that were more empathetic towards others, they happened to survive more because they had more food, they had more love, they had more you know what schmecks, and that's why empathy was incredibly important for our ancestors, and that's why we have it today and are able to be empathetic and exhibit morality.
All right, man.
Not
Hey,
because
you know what,
God.
bro? I gotta go, bro, Mike. But I'll look into evolution, and I highly request you to look in the gospel as well. All right?
Oh, I have looked into the gospel, sir. Trust me.
Nah. Hey, try to seek. You know, Matthew 7:7 said, "If you keep knocking, the door shall be open. You know, if you keep seeking, it shall be answered." So, yeah, man, just give it a try, man.
God, are you there? No answer. Guess he's not home right now. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Um, I'm very tired. But happy to be alive and here. A lot of people think that atheists have no meaning or purpose. That's what we've heard today. That couldn't be further from the truth. Learning gives me purpose. Learning about science makes me happy. Learning about the fact of relativity, that time slows down the faster you move through space, or that there are black holes out there, or wormholes. That's incredible, right? Learning about gas clouds and stars, and learning about biology, learning about abiogenesis and biology and human evolution, like learning about the world around you not only enhances your ability to understand it, but it also enhances your ability to appreciate it. And that's a profound source of meaning for me. Appreciating the world is done because of my understanding of it. And I find lots of purpose in this world, recognizing how fragile we are to be here, right? Looking at that pale blue dot, the little dot there in that picture is the Earth from outer space. And it's a dot. It signifies how fragile and delicate we are here. We're barely hanging on, and the little finite time we get here is precious. We ought to cherish it and each other and people and do the best we can, because that's all we got is each other. Right? And that's a different kind of perspective that you can get from the Bible. Where the Bible tells you that we're the only reason why the universe exists, we're the most important parts of it. We're the main characters of the story. And it's too hard to come to grips with the fact that we might not be the center of it. But once you do, if you were able to just at least accept for the moment that we are not the center of the universe and that we are not that significant, once you come to grips with that, you begin to realize how damn precious life is. And that's why I'm way more grateful to be alive today than I ever was in my past. I'm very grateful. I'm very appreciative of being alive and being who I am and having people like you guys listen and having friends and family. That's so important to me. That's so incredible for me to recognize, because there is nobody designing it, because we just are here by chance, you know? So